the relationship with Kathryn works. Why?
It works on so many different levels that I don't even know how to talk about it. But the acceptance of somebody, what they are. I've seen Kathryn go from, she's confronted so much from somebody who was hanging out with me, who knew people, who had a status and had perceived status and had success and all that kind of stuff, and feeling herself like, where do I fit in all this? And then seeing somebody very personally confront dreams that she's had and see them manifest. I have massive respect for that.
I was talking to Kathryn, and she told me I had to ask you about this. She said
there we go.
She was postpartum, interesting time for her. And she asked me to take you to a moment when you guys were living in Atlanta. She said you looked like a guy with no options. That maybe he wasn't expecting to have kids again at this age, and he's getting ready to leave on location for work and didn't have the answers. She said it was devastating to see, but in the sweetest way possible.
Because you're in it for broke. I have no interest in doing this again. I have no interest in I would do it, but I have no interest in it. I don't think the grass is greener on the other side. Maybe that's where I've gotten. And I go, no, this is my yard. This is great. I like this yard. You know what I mean? But being in Georgia, first of all, I don't want to play that much golf. I have no interest. Like, if you don't play perpetual golf in Georgia, you're already an outsider. And we moved there for obvious reasons. She's going to be by her family, and it'd be this. It's COVID. Everybody moved, whatever. And we had this idea that didn't really play out the way she had imagined. So I was stuck in that. And then I was dealing with a very real postpartum of, like, you're dealing with a different person. This is a responsibility now. Who am I? And I saw her go through all that. And I had been through all that. So when I think about her during that time, whether we were in Georgia, I think it was more severe in Santa Fe during COVID. You know.
How so?
It was like the apocalypse, especially there. And I was working all the time, so I'm not being able to be when I like to be present. And I felt bad, and there was a guilt that came with that of, like, we have to provide, I have to bring in money in order to sustain this thing. And it's like she's alone, and she does, not being able to leave the house. It was crazy, man. And, you're going through the change of having a kid. Like, I'm 56 now, but I'm 50 years old and 52 years old. And I'm like, whoa, we're doing that. So my whole adult life will be raising children. I will get out of high school. I will have a year to myself, 2 years to myself, and then I will be raising kids my whole life. My youngest I'll be 70 when my youngest graduates high school. You know what I mean? So there's that daunting factor. And then you're dealing with a different personality that's now, I got my girl back, but.
In going through that period together makes the relationship stronger?
For obvious reasons. I think it's like, when you're committed.
It could have been what broke you guys, right?
Yeah, no.
It wasn't for you, but it
could have broken anybody.
Right.
But not in our mindset. And anything can happen. I'm not an idiot. There's something about being truly committed. And it's like, this idea of, like, not based on it, but through thick and thin, through rich and poor. It's like, I want to experience the rest of my life with this person because I trust this person. And the trust didn't come from that person, partially. But the trust came from a shift in my own perspective of, like, I know shit can happen. We're all human. We all up. But I like being around this person.
Was there a moment that caused that perspective shift?
Getting sober.
Getting sober. Well, so she brought up her own sobriety and said, she said 2 weeks after you got sober, she made the decision to do it herself. Lasted 7 years. She's like, then I took a break, and now I'm approaching the 2-year anniversary. Doing that with somebody impacted you how?
It didn't necessarily. I was very happy that I wasn't with somebody who was constantly wanting to go to a bar. I probably wouldn't have fared very well because I was very committed to that sobriety.
And she said the scariest part for her was the fact that the entirety of your guys' relationship up to that point, or like some of the most fun moments had been always partying, and how you figure out how to enjoy life together.
How do you know if you
that?
even like this person without that? You know, I mean, it was hard partying, and then you and then you're in this place, by the way, and you're like, what do we do now? We go take a bike ride. We want to go swim in the ocean. You want to go take a walk. You know, it depends on how you present it. And my whole thing, I've said this before, but my whole thing is my job is to make sobriety more fun than my greatest romance of what drinking used to be. That's what I didn't understand before. I loved to drink, man. I loved it. And it was like gasoline to me. It was like fuel.
You said it was a hit of adrenaline.
Yeah, man. I mean, I couldn't I wasn't one of those people that like sipped it watching TV. You know, I've been 86th out of Main Street, every single bar on Main Street. Like, that's it, you're out. I still know those managers. They're like, hey, stoked that you're sober, because you're not allowed back in. And that's that thing that comes out. It's like that Jekyll Hyde thing. It's like, I'm a decent human being, and then I have a drink, and I don't know what's going to happen. I could be a ton of fun. There's a ton of people you could talk to. It's like, I had the greatest night with Josh. Oh my God, we rappelled off the tallest building and whatever. And then other people are like, awful. Like, dude just blinked and changed. That doesn't happen anymore. And I'm so happy it doesn't happen anymore, regardless of how anybody feels about it. I don't care. So I think that thing that you're talking about, that, you know, with Kathryn, I think what Kathryn saw when I got sober, and not that this is all about sobriety, but when I got sober that was first. I was willing to lose her. I was willing to lose anything. I was willing to lose it all to make that the priority. And then I could build on that, and I did. And I met this girl named Kathryn who turned out to be an amazing human being that I love sharing my life with.
What was it about I think it was the morning after Halloween?
That's when I woke up on that sidewalk?
Right.
Yeah, right there. I couldn't figure out how to get in here because I had like wet brain or something. Yeah, I remember Roger Deakins used to run by. Several times I woke up on the sidewalk. Roger Deakins lives close by, and he would run down to the beach, and he would not even acknowledge, you know? I'd be like, waking up. He'd kind of give a wave. I think he would do it like a sidewalk. Totally humiliating. So yeah, it was Halloween night. It was Halloween night, 2013, 14. It's one of them. And I woke up November 1st, and I didn't know where my truck was, and there was some very minor hit and run at the Del Taco up on Lincoln that I escaped from. And yeah, it was typical. It wasn't out of the ordinary. There was nothing out of the ordinary about it. It wasn't like I had hit this place that I hit bottom, and it was just it was what I used to call a Tuesday. It's just another day. And that became super boring all of a sudden. That became like I hit that fork. And I said, do I want to be that? Because I know I can be this for the rest of your life. And that's what it is. I know it super well. Or you can try to find a different version of this circus. It's all a circus. But this is, maybe I can stop putting my head in the lion's mouth. Maybe I can do some trapeze with a net under me. There was a place I went to called the Hoffman Institute when I got sober. And take non-sober people. It wasn't based on sobriety. It was based on something else. But a friend of mine who I had known before, who I knew to be a complete like one of the worst I ever met, had gone to this place and was a different human being. And a friend of mine, a mutual friend, said, you should talk to him. I said, I don't want to talk to that asshole. And I did end up calling him, and he was different. And he's one of my closer friends now. And he said, yeah, you should try this place. And I went to this place. And one of the things that they did was, there was a cemetery close by. And they said, go down to this grave, lay on the cemetery, lay on a grave. And imagine your closest friends, your family and your closest friends and all the people that love you end up at this funeral. But they're pissed. They're pissed because how you manipulated them, that you died young and they loved you, and that you really, you know what I mean, really raked them over the coals, and they're angry about it. So I did it, and then I went up and I told this counselor what I did, and she said, no, you didn't do it right. I said, I had this amazing epiphany. She said, no, it wasn't right, do it again. And I did it again. And I went back up and I told her, and she said, no, do it again. And then I remember I walked out into the driveway and I was like, this place. Like, I know what they're doing. They're trying to break me. They're trying to this. This is what they all do. And I said, if I leave, I had that moment where I go, if I leave, I know what leaving is. But what if I stay? What if I jump out of the plane? And I stayed. And I went down there and I laid on that grave and I imagined everybody. It was a visual that I will never forget. And then I experienced it, and I went back up to this counselor, and I didn't even get a word out. I went, and she goes, you got it. And I thought that was really, and again, I'm somebody who, at least from an objective point of view, I would perceive myself as being somebody who would be like, I'm not going to do that.
Right.
Which is the whole reason why I do it.
And doing that helped how?
It helped me realize that I carry some responsibility, not just for myself, but for those that love me, and that it starts with me and starts with my own relationship with myself and how I carry myself and how honest I am with myself. And I've seen from that moment on the massive impact that that's had.
Really?
Massive, massive. The biggest one being my older kids. I didn't know that my older kids didn't trust me. I didn't know that. And I didn't ask for them to trust me, and I didn't do that thing that, you know, especially whether you do therapy or whether you get sober, whatever it is, about like, see all I've done? I mean, come on, like, what more do you want from me? That kind of thing, which is horrible, I think. And I didn't look for any of that. I just was focused on the change, you know, and shifting a perspective and kind of, and then I remember it was about 4 years into it, 4.5 years into it, I just remember seeing in both kids' eyes something changed. Like, oh, we can rely on this dude.
And what do you think it was that changed during those 4 years?
I really enjoyed the circus now, that I really enjoy the heart in it and searching for that heart in it, searching for the nucleus, the nectar, as my friend calls it, my buddy Brett. You know, he'll say now, he'll just write me a text and he'll be like, how you doing? And I'll say something. He'll be like, you're living in the nectar, man. You're living in the nectar. I like that.